wait to see what Lori's going to share with us. So, Amber, do you want me to go right into it? We can't hear you, Amber.
I'm just blabbing away over here and nobody can hear me. Sorry. Y'all, I'm super pumped about this call. I was thinking today about Lori and about just kind of the different way that she has impacted my business. And when I heard her speak at a convention on a panel, it changed my business. It changed my way of thinking in a lot of ways. In my opinion, she is to Plexus what like Reba McEntire is to country music. All right. So y'all sit down and hang on because it's going to be fun. It might be the red hair that's making me draw that comparison. I don't know. But we've asked Lori to share her story with you guys, and then we're going to do a Q&A with her as well. So Lori, thank you so much for joining us tonight. The floor is yours.
Well, one thing I know for sure is it's not my accent. That's not what's causing this. Well, I thought I would open tonight a little bit with, I won't go into a lot of depth with my story because I could reminisce. I've been with the company for going on, like next month will be 4 years. And I could take you into some history with this company. It would probably be very fascinating, but then we would be talking till like, 11 o'clock. But I think I'll probably just hit the highlights of things that are most fascinating about my journey that not everyone knows. One of the most fascinating things about when I joined Plexus is that I didn't know it was a company. I didn't know it was a company that I was joining that I could sell something from, basically. I saw an ad for it. I wrote it down and then later Googled it, and I ended up on a website. The website looked very different when I joined than it does now. And it was very elementary looking, and you sort of had to navigate back to the home page and then go to another page. You couldn't go from one place to the other. And all I thought I was joining was the ability to basically just order products from a company at wholesale. And I sort of presented it that way to other people. I didn't tell anybody on Facebook for several months because I was like, that's lame. I'm not going to talk about it on Facebook. But I did think, since I saw that the products were working for me, and I have to insert this first, long before I saw weight loss results, even back in 2011, long before I saw anything that anybody would notice as far as weight loss results, I noticed the clouds parting for me, like clarity. And that's something that I didn't know to expect. No one had said, the person who I joined under, you won't recognize their name. It's someone that you'd be like, I don't know who that is. I don't either. I never speak to them. I never get phone calls from them. When you get to join in on a cool contest and win a prize, I've never been part of a contest. I've always hosted contests. I don't have an active upline in this company for several levels. And so I truly, truly didn't know what I was in. I eventually started talking about it on Facebook because I thought the products were so remarkable. It looked to me like all there was a $5 markup-ish in your products. So I was like, you can't really make any money with this thing. So I do feel sad, though, that I would know about something that was so amazing for your health and not tell people about it. I was a photographer. I had been a freelance photographer for about probably almost 6 years, give or take, when I found this company. And I had been representing myself as a photographer on Facebook. And I kind of had this boutique-y type, surreal, dreamy imagery that I liked for people to connect with my work. And I didn't really want to connect it with anything health-related. Certainly didn't want them connecting it with weight loss, weight gain, big fat backside. I mean, I had to go to weddings already and squat down in front of the bride and groom in all my glory. I didn't want people thinking, I wonder if she has lost any weight. I don't know. I can't tell if she's lost any weight or not. I mean, so that was my, it took me a long time to be willing to be like, okay, I'm going to go public with this thing. Still, like I said, didn't know I could make any money at it, but I felt like if the clouds are parting, then I would be a total jerk not to tell people, look, I found something, the clouds are parting. If your clouds could part too, wouldn't you want to be in on this deal? So that my first post I found something visual since I'm a photographer. My first post on Facebook was in regards to my janky toenail. It was literally like if this were my toenail, half of it was grown in, and you could see healthy toenail that was growing in from the root portion here. And I was like, you can actually see that. The photographer in me was like, look, people, you can see this. This is something that's real. And I didn't know what all that meant. Also, you should know that when I joined the company, no one, if there were people doing it on Facebook, they weren't connected to me at all. Like, I never ran into people selling it on Facebook. I was an island to myself, and just, you know, I'm all posting about my toenail. I had stumbled across some books, which now I know was completely God faith. I mean, it was just like completely amazing, miraculous, I should say, that these books were falling in front of me that had to do with, well, the first book I came across was called The Fungus Link. And the first 3 chapters of it are Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and asthma. And they're talking about the connection between fungus and those 3 diseases. And I was just like, I was fascinated with it. And even still, even as amazing as that might sound, that no one had ever told me, and I'm going to tell you with all honesty, no one in the company knew yet at that point that there was a link between what we had that we could pop in our mouth every day and all of these things that we can't really talk about compliance-wise. No one had put that together yet, that there was an actual link there, okay? I didn't know that for a long time, but now I look back on it and I'm like, oh yeah, nobody knew. That's awesome. So I'm reading this book, and literally at the same time I'm reading this book, I haven't put together in my mind yet that the stuff on my toenail and the fact that my feet have quit itching and the fact that my depression is gone could be linked to what I keep reading in this book. It's like my brain would not, the short circuits would not ever match up and be like, hey, hello, you need to be telling people about this stuff. What made it finally connect is I told a couple of people at church, hey, I've tried this stuff. It's helped with my moodiness. I'll call it moodiness for compliance purposes. And the clouds have parted, and I really like it. You should try it. And they come back and they're like, is this supposed to help with joint pain? And I'm like, I don't know. I doubt that. So seriously doubt that. And the other one comes back and says, my daughter seems to be breathing better. And I'm like, oh no, that's crazy. But over time, as I was reading this book, I was realizing that God was trying to make a connection for me. He was like, hello, fly. I mean, all this stuff is like cosmically happening, and I was not catching on. I say all that to show you the short time span between I joined in October of 2011. The first time I posted about it on Facebook was maybe the end of January or early February in 2012. Because of the products, and only because of the products, and because of my lack of knowledge for understanding the compensation plan, I didn't understand it for a long time. I didn't care to understand it, whatever. From February of 2012 until June of 2012, the income that I was making with Plexus went from having a comma in it to having 2 numbers before the comma in it. Okay? And I wasn't building a team. I didn't know to build a team. I was dealing. I was pushing this stuff on people. I was like, you have to try this. Now I look back on this and I think, oh my gosh, some of my most remarkable rock stars on my team are seeds that were planted when I knew nothing about what I was doing. I knew nothing about Candida. I knew nothing about multi-level marketing. All I knew is that the results were remarkable. And so a lot of people you can really get caught up. I'm not saying that you need to work your business that way. I'm just explaining to you that you can get so caught up in ways to work the business, ways to work the compensation plan, how to motivate your team, and you can lose the true miracle that we have in our hands here and the beauty of what we can offer to people health-wise, because you get so caught up in structuring and leadership, and all those skills are important, but if those skills are not coming naturally to you yet, if you'll just flow in the juju of, I want to help people, I want people to feel better, I want people to experience the clouds parting, I want people to experience what it feels like to walk around without having so much pain, you can make a significant income with this business, and begin to accidentally, which is what happened to me, build a team. I was actually resistant to building a team. Every time someone would join, I would think, are you serious? I mean, oh my gosh, now someone else in town is selling it. This is exactly what I thought. That's how lame-brained I was about the whole thing. It wasn't long after the 5-figure income started before, I mean, that happened really fast, way faster than that should happen for people. But it wasn't long after that that the part of my check that was showing up as commissions began to be smaller than what was for my team building portion, the pay points and all that kind of thing. Now, I don't know why I'm fascinated with all those portions of my story. I think partially because I did it a really backwards way because I didn't know what I was doing. And I look back on it now, and when I have whiners on my team, I say, oh, talk to the hand. I'm like, don't be whining. I hand this stuff to you. There are documents galore. I show you how to post on Facebook. I show you where to go get the information that you want. The website is like 1,000 times better than it was when I started. There is training. There were no YouTube videos. When I started, you would type in Plexus on YouTube. There was like one poorly recorded video of Sheila at a meeting. Someone recorded it from the back of the room. You could barely hear what she was saying. Plexus didn't exist on the World Wide Web, really, at that point. And so if you have these complainers on your team, you can't let those people weigh you down too much and be like, gosh, I mean, I wonder if I'm doing enough to help them. If they want it, and they will go after it. And you can't want it bad enough for people, which I will get around to later, I'm sure, because when I read some of your questions earlier, I thought, oh, there's going to be a lot of cool topics that we'll talk about later this evening. The most important portion of my why, and then we'll get into the questions, is that now I look back on everything and realize my brother died when he was 28 years old to a fungal infection. And in Oklahoma City, one of the major hospitals in Oklahoma City, they had no idea what that was. They still, I don't think, really know what Candida is, how it impacts your health. Right after my brother died, my sister succumbed to a really severe food allergy that devastated her life for about 7 years leading up to when I got involved with Plexus. And so now I can look back on it. I can see how, first of all, it probably would have made a major different outcome for my brother's life. My sister now has her life back. She had the EpiPen kind of allergy where her throat would close if her food was even contaminated by brushing up against food that had wheat gluten in it. She'd have to go to the emergency room. She had that kind of allergy. Her allergies are now she's actually not allergic to anything anymore. And that took 1 month after she got serious about it and decided that this was a real thing and it could really help her. It took her 1 month to take care of what's 7 years of devastation from her. I mean, it was a very depressing life to live after we had gone through the death of my brother, and then she finds out that she not only could not eat wheat, she couldn't eat several other foods that were pretty common, eggs, dairy, all kinds of different fruits and that type of thing. And now she no longer suffers from any of those problems either. So my why is very product-based, or at least it was in the beginning. Now I can see the financial freedom that this brings for people as well, and it kind of blows my mind too. It more than blows my mind. But I have a very strong, I guess what I'm trying to say is I have a very strong product-based why. And if you are solely focused in this business, if you are solely focused on weight loss, I don't know a nicer way to say this than you are screwing people out of the chance to have complete freedom in their life that has nothing to do with whether they're going to lose weight or not. The weight loss will come in due time. If you can get your mind off of the weight loss, you're going to be doing a world of favors for everyone that gets involved in this business, because there's so much more to what these products can do, potentially getting many people off of countless prescription drugs, which in turn, just that in and of itself helps with weight loss. I don't know if you know this. All the inflammation that's caused by prescription drugs, all the water retention and all that kind of thing that comes along with people who are on countless antidepressants, steroids, antibiotics, inflammatory type drugs, and it's patience. This is a patience business. So, okay, I'm going to shut up about this, and I want to go into questions that you have for me, but all these things were like bubbling up on my heart today, things that I thought, I definitely want to talk about this. I definitely want to talk about that. And usually before I do a call, I'm all nervous. And tonight I was like, I hope they record this because I have so much it's like oozing out of my pores tonight. So anyway, okay, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. See what your questions are.
All right. That was awesome. I love that. I love hearing a little bit of your story and then hearing your words of wisdom. And man, we've all been pumped about this call, Lori, because I think you just bring such a cool perspective to everything. When you present Plexus and when you talk about it, I love your perspective on all of it. So, okay. So we asked some of our team for some questions. So we're just going to go down the list. And the very first question, how do you train your newbies their first month? And somebody said, I ask because I hear her, Lori, talk about getting 3 and training 3 to get 3 every month. Curious what she recommends to train and how you do that.
Okay. What we've sort of labeled, what you're talking about there, the getting 3, it's sort of a cycle. We've labeled it going sterling silver on our team. It's just the concept of always, it's like, you've got 3 in the batter's box and 3 in the hole or whatever they call it, like you're playing ball. It's like 3 on deck. That's what I'm trying to say. 3 on deck at any time, where you always want to have 3 people trying out the products. That's how I feel. It's very smart to have them as preferred customers because then you're making that additional bonus on what they're buying as well. Plus they're getting that shipment every single month. So instead of just going silver, I think it's always smart to have your 3 potentials that are trying the products, to where as they move over and begin to join, and not all of them will, it's all a numbers game, but as you have 2 or 3 from your 3 decide to join and become ambassadors, you're replacing those 3 customers all the time, finding new prospects. And I think the key to the whole thing is it's a balanced message. If people start sensing that you are really driven by either aspect of the business or any of the several aspects of the business, you're cutting your audience in half. Because if you have someone that you're talking to and you don't really know what they might be interested in about the business, you don't know but what they actually suffer from, joint pain or inflammatory conditions or whatever, and you're really approaching them with the business, they may be a person that's like, yeah, well, that's secondary to the fact that I have all this joint pain. Other way around also, if you approach them, you're all about the weight loss and you're all about all of the health issues that you could help with this, and they're suffering and they're like, I can't even afford your products. If you come with a balanced message, and also if you present yourself on social media and anywhere you are, when you're having a conversation with people, if you can present a balanced message, I think that is like the number one thing. For when I get a new person on my team, the first thing I want to do, especially for a level 1, let's focus on level 1s, because then you hope that your level 1s will duplicate what you do. The first thing I want to do is I want to find out what's your why, what's your driving force behind what you do, what you're doing. And this can be an evolving answer, because in the beginning it may be, I just want to get my product paid for. But what's your why? Why did you join the company? Your goals. What do you hope comes out of this in the next 6 months to a year? And I usually will have them message the answer to that to me. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your perspective on what made you join, and tell me why you joined. And then, well, what made you join, why you joined. That's basically the same thing. But also tell me what you would like to see happen from this, because it's way easier to set up a game plan for someone if you know that their goal is pay for my products, or if you know their goal is retire myself and my husband. That's not to say that doesn't change, because my goal was started off like this and has turned very quickly actually into something bigger. But it's very hard to give someone the whole picture and for them to fully receive it until they've done it for a little while. So you kind of want to tap into what do you want to see out of this? Hopefully I can give you a game plan to make it happen for you. Hopefully I can teach you that if you have 3 or 4 customers of your own that buy approximately the same amount of products that you do, that you can get your products paid for. Once they see that that sort of comes with ease, then they may open their minds up to a little bit bigger dream. I definitely want to make myself approachable to new ambassadors, make sure that they know that I'm available to them. I don't force myself on them too much because I think that can be a huge turnoff for people. I equip them with the files that are in our training page. I have a video at the top of my training page that just basically tells them how to use the training page. It welcomes them, tells them how to find the files section. My cover photo at the top, I just recently did this and it made a world of difference. My cover photo at the top has, some pretty graphics and stuff, but it has an arrow over in the right-hand corner pointing down that says, this is where you use the search bar on this page. Little things like that make it where any goofball can get on there and go, oh, I can literally trip into a correct answer here. And my team page is pretty interactive. Lots of people always talking on there. If you have a smaller team and it's not quite like that yet, you don't need to get your feathers ruffled or worry about that too much. More than likely, you can reach upline and you have a bigger team page until your team page gets bigger. I think the most important thing that you can do, and I'll send it to you guys if you want it later. I have a video that I did. It's probably a Zoom training that basically goes over how to answer questions for people. When you make your first 2 or 3 social media posts and you get your first gullible ones, basically you're like, oh, that's a bite. I used to be in real estate and they would say, if you price that house in the honey spot, like if somebody's selling their house and they price it in the range of what they're really going to sell their house for, that those first people to walk through are your very best. That's why you don't want to price it too high, because your first people, when that house goes on the market, those are really good prospects. Those are more than likely your potential buyers. I feel the same way when you start posting on Facebook and your very first people that are like, I'm interested. What is she talking about? She's never done anything like this before. This is different than what she usually talks about on Facebook. And I feel like at that moment, if you're equipped with it's not the right things to say. It's not necessarily that you're looking to have the right answers. If you're equipped to handle the situation in that you don't Tigger bounce people with too much information, because it turns people off. And I want to see a show of hands here. Have you ever sent someone like what sort of looks like an article in your own writing when they say, what is plexus? And you're typing and you're frantic, your hair's flying all over the place. And you're like, you've answered their question with brilliance. What is plexus? And then they open it. You can see that they've actually checked the message and they never message you back. Like they're like, oh, I don't even, girl, because you Tigger bounce them and they can't trust you anymore. So I have a great video about this that I'll share with you guys without having to go into too much information on this, because I know you guys have other questions, but it's one of my favorite topics. And if you can equip a new person with the basic of how to answer their question in something like 2 or 3 sentences and follow up with a short question that requires them to respond, so that you can get an interaction going back and forth where you're bouncing the ball to them and then they bounce it back and it's casual. And then you can finally build up a relationship where they're like, okay, I trust her. I think I can actually ask her about business and she won't Tigger bounce me. Okay. I think that is key, because I did a lot. I think network marketers, as a general rule, we get involved into this company and we don't want people thinking that we got tricked or that we were involved in a scheme or that we're stupid. So we think when someone asks us a question, we need to be eloquent and smart and educated and sound professional and wear a suit and tie and all this stuff. And the thing is, we're sort of compensating for the fact that we don't want people to think that we got duped into this plan. I think instead we'll keep it more like, you're my friend or you're my neighbor. And when they say, what is plexus? We're like, well, it's a drink stick. You mix it in water and you drink it. It makes me feel great. Have you ever tried it? that's a way simpler answer than going into Garcinia Cambogia and all the ways of blood sugar and and they're like, oh my God, I'm never, ever, forever going to ask her a question again. Okay. So to me, newbies, if they know how to properly answer questions after they post it on Facebook, to me, that's like the number one thing. And I think I've probably gone over time on that question, but that's like one of my biggest topics. If I can get that video in people's hands and actually make, everybody's saying I Tigger bounce people too. Me too. I did it for the first like 6 months, and then I finally realized nobody ever answers me back. And once I figured out that I don't have to do that with people, and if I just say something like you at the supermarket, oh, it's a pink drink, then they're like, oh, tell me more. And that's where you want them to be, is in the tell me more category. Okay, I'll let you ask me the next question.
No, that was great. And I love the phrase Tigger bounce. I'm definitely going to be using that one. I think we all do. And we definitely want to see that video you talked about too. Okay, question number 2.
Okay.
This is one I could have written this. I didn't, but I could have, because I need this. How do you organize and track potential and current customers and ambassadors, interaction or scheduled interaction? Do you do this systematically? What are your key organizational tools?
Okay. I'm the most interesting person you could have asked this question to. If you knew me well, you'd be like, oh, you don't want to ask her that question. She's going to really going to blow your mind with her answer, and not probably in the best way. But I work my business completely differently, and I have the good fortune of working with someone who is better than that. My husband is better at that type of thing than I am. He's more of a list maker. He's more of one that tracks the back office. Don't let your jaw drop when I tell you that the last time I logged into my back office was probably 6 months ago. Okay? Now, the reason that that's true and the reason I can hold diamond status, first of all, I had to get to diamond first because I did track it a lot getting there. I tracked it a lot getting to emerald. I tracked it a lot getting to sapphire. I overwhelmed myself. I had to use man a lot. I was constantly in panic mode, and I finally realized, and this is my biggest thing that I train on now, hands down, is you attract what you talk about and what you think about. And so if you stay in panic mode a lot, or I wrote a status about this today, if you stay in toil mode, I'm toiling, I'm working, I'm, toil, boil, and trouble, toil, how does it say? Trouble, whatever. If you're constantly in toiling mode, working mode, and you do a lot more working than you do literally listening, and this is a spiritual thing I'm getting into here, but this is so important because once I figured this out, the whole dynamic of my business, my household, my marriage, everything changed, and in a good way. I do still look for prospects. I do still post on Facebook. I do still keep lists of prospects. But the way that I go about it is in a very relationship building way, where I begin to use that list as an edifying list. When people like my statuses on Facebook and I'm like, okay, that's a new person. That person has never really reached out to me in any way. I'll put their name down on a list. If they do it more than once, I'm going to put a little star by their name. This person is, without knowing it, they're sort of reaching out to me and they don't know it. And I begin to think, okay, if this is the person that would genuinely go over to their page and begin to comment on their pictures or their vacation or whatever, I'll go over there and begin to talk to them a little bit. And I keep it like weekly. I do this. I'll go over to these different people, talk to them on their page, maybe like their pictures. And it sort of tricks Facebook into thinking you're friends, like good friends. And it begins to show their statuses to you, your status to them. And you begin to flow in each other's Facebook news feeds naturally that way. I say naturally, but you've tricked it. Do you see what I'm saying? So that way you're seeing their statuses. It makes it easier for you to comment on their things. And you know that Facebook is also showing your stuff to them. It's a very warm market approach, I realize, and it's sort of a chicken way. It's like, well, I don't know if I actually want to just pick up the phone and call this person yet. but you can warm them up to the idea so that by the time you are ready to pick up the phone, it doesn't feel like such a cold call. Does that make sense? Is everybody kind of following me on that so far? Okay. I think to build your business on a really strong foundation, I feel like the more hustle and the more striving that you put into it, I think that's if you were building it on legs, you're building it on legs that look like this. I think if you build your business more on relationship, printing out lists that you literally, like, you take your list and you pray over these people, and begin to edify and build a relationship with people. Spend a lot of time working on spiritual things for your team. I mean, I have a list of my level ones that I have printed out, and it's on my nightstand, and I pray over them by name. I pray over them out loud. I talk to them. I talk to God about them. If I know particulars that are going on in their life, I speak life into their situations. And when I figured this dynamic out in my team, that I had gone from, gosh, she turned her AQ off. She's not ever going to be a great ambassador like I thought she was. She was supposed to be my rock star. And all of this negative juju that I was spewing out on my people, once I realized, take that list, Lori, use that list to speak life into those people, it completely changed. First of all, it changed the dynamic of my business. It changed the dynamic of my marriage, because now Jetty and I, this is something we do together every night. It changed the dynamic of, it changed everything, because I went from striving and hard work and where you sort of feel like you're earning it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're like, I'm working hard for this. I'm earning it. And it turned it into more of a thing to where you know what you're doing is built on a very firm foundation, because you're speaking life into people. And so instead of, since I'm not good at organizing and tracking anyway, I've never been good at that. And it would be something that would be very strifeful for me to do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If you are one of those people that comes naturally to, I really think that you should probably keep doing that. But it also wouldn't hurt to add a little bit of right brain and spirit and heart to your business. There would be so much more that bubbles out of it, that you're just putting good juju out into the world, and it will come back to you in ways that I can't tell you the ways in which, when other leaders have told me I'm struggling, things are going on right now. This other business has come into my hometown, some XYZ business. They've come into my hometown and now they're trying to steal my ambassadors. And I'm all like, my team is blessed. My team is above the influence. My team is not impacted by anything like that. My team, I speak life over those situations, and I haven't had to deal with it. And yeah, I'm one of these people that right now is really bad wanting to knock on wood because I've been extremely blessed, but we have been above the influence about these things, and you can too. It's so like, I can't actually talk about it enough. It's probably the biggest thing is to keep yourself out of overwhelm mode and to really tune in and listen. If you are a spiritual person, I'm not trying to turn you off. If you're not a spiritual person, I'm not trying to be like, well, then you don't count in this. But if you are a spiritual person, if you can, when you pray, if you can pray and then also shut up and listen. I think that's like even like 2 times for as much as you talk, you shut up and listen, because God has clued me into so many things that were going on in this business, so many things that I could see in the future of this business, and all this stuff it happens. And my husband's a little bit weirded out by it. He's like, wow, you project a lot about what's going to happen. And I'm like, no, I speak it. It's the power of your tongue and speaking life into things. So, okay, I'm sorry. Now, all right, next question.
Wow, that was awesome. I don't know about anybody else, but I think this call was just for me. That was some good stuff right there. Okay, let's move on to, another question. What are your favorite leadership tools?
Okay. My favorite, when I tell you what I have a stack of in my office, and I have a stack of the book, The Circle Maker. When someone joins my team, I put that to them. I paid $5 a book from Mardell. I think it was like Mardell.com, and they have them for $5 almost all the time. Amazon sometimes has them for like $7 or $8. I don't know. Wisest investment I've ever made in my business. Maybe it may be because of where I live. I sort of live in the haven of the Bible Belt, which is sort of also the haven of Southern guilt. And if you're doing well, shame on you. And oh my gosh, it's probably her greed and all these things that I had grown up with that had planted seeds in my brain that had basically limited how much I was willing to dream over my life, over my business. It's called The Circle Maker. I think somebody was asking what that is. The Circle Maker. It's by Mark Batterson. And there's a part in there, the whole book is amazing, but there's one part I usually quote to my team that talks about when logic begins to rule your life instead of dreaming big. You let your left brain come in and say, well, perhaps you did dream. Let's say like when you first get married and you have these dreams and you're like, I know it's going to be a fairy tale and all this stuff. And then a little bit of life happens. And therefore you start thinking logically, you think, well, probably not going to be a fairy tale. It's more than likely going to be, not a romance novel. It might not be a bestseller. It might just be something you get at the dime store, right? Well, that's sort of what we do to our dreams, like with our business, with life in general. And we put our dreams up on a shelf where we can reach them without God's help. It's like, oh, I can reach that. I mean, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to bubble, toil, and trouble. I thought of it now. I'm going to bubble, toil, and trouble, and I'm going to get that. I'm going to reach that dream all on my own because it may be the Dollar General version of my dream, but it's something that's attainable. It's within my limits. And it keeps us sort of, if you think of it, it keeps you exactly where the enemy wants you because then you're relying on yourself and you're not relying on a higher power. You're not having to hit your knees and be like, Lord, this is the dream you gave me. I believe more for myself. I believe more for my team. Even the thought of like, I used to think of wealth, people who were wealthy, examples that I had seen in my life. I thought that most of those people were probably greedy, or I judged the way they spent their money, or I had no idea what they were doing really in their life. But I put that in a part of my brain that was a negative energy part of my brain. And when I would think about money and people having money, it's like I wouldn't let myself go there. And that book really changed my perspective. And I actually realized, it doesn't say this in the book, but it does. This is true, whether it says it in the book or not, that while I was living a life that I thought, well, I take care of my own. I pay my own bills. I take care of my kids. I'm not on welfare. I'm making sure my kids have food and they have a warm coat in the winter, and I'm doing all the right things, and I was feeling nice and holy. And I want you to notice that every sentence that I just said started off with the word I. I was doing all these things. I, in my own power. And I realized that my life was very self-centered. Like I didn't even have the energy, ability, capability. There was no way I could take care of anybody but myself because I didn't make enough money to. And I didn't have enough time to. I didn't have enough time to volunteer for things. I was toiling all the time to basically be able to pay my own bills. When we actually started hitting an income to where it was like, oh my God, I mean, I didn't even know I would ever have the capability of making even what I was making at, well, for me, it was like senior gold because I have so many sales. But let's say like if you're at an emerald paycheck, your typical emerald paycheck, I never dreamed I would make the kind of money that a single emerald ambassador makes, much less like what Jetty and I make now, which is like the double diamond income. Never dreamed that we would ever be in a position to make the kind of income that we're making. And the position that it puts you in to be able to pour into other people's lives, it's really overwhelming in a good way. When a need comes up that I feel like I would like to be able to meet that need through my church, people in my community, outreaches that are going on, I can do that now. I never would have been able to do that before, and it's made a huge difference for me. And I finally realized, a friend of mine told me, she said, what your money problem was is you thought money would make you greedy, and you didn't want to be greedy. And she said, what you didn't realize was that money magnifies what you already are. So if you already are giving, if you already are generous and caring and compassionate, it magnifies those things. What you've seen sometimes, example-wise, is you may have seen people who were already greedy and money magnified that, but that doesn't mean that money makes people greedy. And definitely that has, for my life, that has been the case. It has put us in a place where I'm thrilled and blessed, and I get really like shook up thinking about it, because we're in a place now to where we can give. I didn't really answer your question. The circle maker. The circle maker is my favorite leadership tool. I spend a lot of time on my team page pouring into my people. I make videos a lot. You don't have to make a video. The first video I ever made, this was going to shock some of you, I was in Maui the first year. Like, I had never made a video, and I made it to Emerald. In fact, I was already a Sapphire before I ever made a video. I was scared of my own voice. I don't like my accent. I don't like to hear it recorded. So you don't have to do videos, but I can tell you it's been hands down one of the best leadership tools that I have, because once people can actually relate to you and they have eye contact with you, even though it's not in person, if they live in another state and they've probably never going to get the chance to meet you, or at least they don't think that they will, they can connect with you in a way that the written word just almost can't penetrate people with the written word the way you can with a video. So if you don't want to put a video up on your Facebook wall, but you have a small team and you would like for your team to be able to relate to you, you cannot deny the power of what you have in your pocket all day long, which is your iPhone or your Android, and the ability to be able to literally say, this is what's on my heart today. I was thinking of this. Or, hey, have you guys heard about the power of 3? People are more likely to watch a video than they are to read a document every day of the week. And I think that's probably hands down for my entire team. So, okay, yeah, I know that's not probably the greatest, like, you probably wanted a great file or document or something like that, but I'm just being as vulnerable and honest with you as I can.
No, I think it's great. I've read that book, did a big Bible study on it at my church a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love it. And there's so many other great tools out there too that we put on our page, and I'm sure you do too. So we've got all that stuff. So just hearing your perspective of what you use. Okay, next question. We did skip a couple in the middle, Lori. I'm sure you noticed, just to make sure we have time for some bigger ones. So next question. In this business, what has been your biggest roadblock, and how have you dealt with it?
Okay. This is so easy for me. This question is there's like the number one reason and the number two reason falls so down far below it that it doesn't even matter. The number one biggest thing for me is wanting this for other people more than they want it for themselves, and spending too much time devoted to those people who I love or treasure or wish it for, when they're not the people that are showing up. They're not the people that are showing up when we have an event. They're not the people that are calling me and asking me questions. They're not the people who are reaching out to other people. And as your team grows and you find yourself working more and more with your levels 5 and 6 and 7, and maybe even your levels 8, because those are the people, and you're like, why do my levels 5 why are they working so much harder than all my level 1s and level 2s? And I want you to think of something. I want you to kind of get this in your head straight at the point you are right now. The shape that you're building looks like this. Even if you have several on your first level, it looks like this. So your level 8 is down here by my elbows, okay? So you have, like, as you grow your team, let's say you have a healthy level 7 and there are 1,000 people on it. The likelihood that you have 5 or 6 on your level 7, or even a 15 on your level 7 that really want to work this business, is just a numbers game. it doesn't mean it's like, oh, I mean, it's just the fact that you have so many more down there. And what you have to realize is they're someone else's workers. Now, they're on your team, but for you to devote a lot of time and energy into them, which basically they're people that are going to show up and you're excited and you like to be around excited people. So therefore you devote a lot of time and energy into them rather than going out and find yourself a new excited level 1 or working with a level 1 that's already currently working to help them begin to build their levels 2 and 3. That is I think it's the biggest time waster, the biggest roadblock, the biggest, like, how you can trick yourself into thinking that you're actually doing something income producing. You're like, oh yeah, I mean, I'm working my business. I'm talking to people all day long. I got like 4 or 5 that are down on my level 6 and they are working it. They are going to be rock stars. And it's like, they're worth 2 points to you. Now that doesn't make them any less as a person. It doesn't mean that you want the business any less for them than you want it for other people. But the fact is, you got a lot of them down there who can be energy drainers, energy suckers. And if you spend a lot of time working with them because they want to work it, it's time that you could better spend picking up the phone, choosing to edify people, choosing to speak life into people, choosing to post positive things on your level 1s, type up emails to your customers, type up emails to your level 1s that have maybe perhaps gone inactive or haven't been as active as they were. Those are hard. Those are for our ego. This is the deal what I'm about to say. For our ego, it's more fun to work with the level 6 who really loves this business than it is to pick up the phone and get I don't know, it's just not seeming to be what I thought it would be from a level 1 who's quit working. So we just avoid it. We hang up the phone and we just be like, I'm just going to work with these level 6 and I'm working. I'm busy, girl. I'm working. And you're not really accomplishing income producing activity. So if you'll ever get it in your head that even though that it's exciting to work with those others that are really wanting it badly, it's more income producing to find a brand new green sprout, and water that green sprout that's a level 1 than it is to spend a lot of time. Do you find yourself spending a lot of time and energy with the ones who want to work it, which is good, unless they're on your level 5 or 6? Does that make sense to you? Now, if you're smaller right now and you're like, I don't understand that yet, I probably wouldn't have understood it when I first began. But as you begin to really grow your business and you get these ones that they really reach out to you and they really want to message you and they really want to talk to you about things, those people are exciting, but they're not necessarily, if they're on your level 6, everyone that they recruit equals 1 point to you. Does that make sense? And in the long run, it's way smarter to work closely with 3 or 4 of your level 1s or level 2s and try to teach them about duplication and that type of thing. I think the biggest roadblock is energy spent on people who either don't count for you or even sometimes working sideline with people. You'll be like, well, I'm really been helping somebody else on somebody else's team because you're avoiding picking up the phone and getting a no from somebody and damaging your ego. You have to remember that in the long run, this really does come down to a numbers game. The more life you can speak onto your business, the better that your numbers are going to come out for you. But your levels 1 and your levels 2 are your most important to teach them how to really work the business so that they will duplicate your efforts.
All right. That's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really, really good information. I love that.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to one more question and then we'll see how much time we got here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is one, that I hear a lot. And I know for me, from when I first started to now, my answer has really changed. I think it really depends on where you are in your business. But so I'm constantly myself going back to when I first started and trying to remember how it feels when you first start and you have to deal with negativity because it does happen. So we want to know, when you first started, how did you deal with negativity and how do you deal with it now?
Okay. when I first started, negativity would be very deflating to me. It could rub off on me a lot easier than it does now. And it could, I could let one comment on Facebook, not even by a team member. It could just be some goofball that I don't even really know, could totally change the course of my day. And I mean, I'm not going to say that I'm above that now, because that could still happen to me now if I'm not careful. But belief in the products and belief, like reading testimonies, talking to people whose lives have been significantly changed, builds your belief up enough to where, and also your why factors in there too. If you have a very powerful why, you can get through those days and the negativity the negative energy that can come at you much easier, because you don't let it impact your day like you would. Now, if you have negativity on your team, I have discovered that first and foremost, if a team member comes to me and says, okay, I've got this, like, my team page is filled with negative. It took me a long time to finally be able to say this to someone, but now since I've started saying it to people, I'm like, well, it's effective. I usually will tell them in a nice way, clean your own house first. Okay. What's coming out of your mouth about anything, basically, I don't think they're ever going to get the 96 back in stock. They're never gonna. It's never gonna happen. I'm being really candid and real with you, because it's like, that back office, it just doesn't seem to work the way I want it to work. 3 of my level 1s turned off today. I doubt they're ever going to turn back on. Okay. If the person who comes to me and says, my team is so negative, is talking trash about themselves like that, usually I'll say, okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to work on your vocabulary. Let's start speaking life into your team. Let's start speaking life into the company as a whole. I think there's a power in numbers about what goes on with this company, what goes on with all of our businesses in general, just exactly the way the value of the pay point impacts us all. I think the power of our tongue impacts us all. And so and I'm not perfect at this. I still get caught up in it. Sometimes I'll see something and I'll see something that someone has typed and I'll think, oh, that's true. That is so irritating to me. And, you can get on this whole negative juju vibe. And I feel like it infects. The reason I say this is because now that I've been with the company for 4 years, I have teams that are all their own teams now. Like, I'm their, like, the big mama leader or whatever, but they are definitely leaders of their own. And a negative leader has a negative team every single time. Now, I'm not saying that they are negative inherently. Like, they may go through a season, because you can go through a crappy season in your marriage, and that doesn't mean that you're a crappy person. Same thing can go on with your business, where you can be like, you've got these leaders that are coming to you with these negative vibes. And I think if you can speak life into them and point out to them the power of what they say and what they speak over their business, and be like, okay, I want to work on a few things with you. I want you to write down all the things that you just told me. The 96 is never going to be in stock. The back office stinks. When I called customer service, they were lousy. And I want you to literally draw big old red lines through everything you said. And I want you to say, I'm so excited for when the 96 comes back in stock. I can't believe how much our customer service has improved. And then if this infects all the way into your marriage and into your kids, I want you to begin speaking life onto those things too. And I want you to give me a 60 days effort. I tell them, 60 days. Give me 60 days where you promise me that every time that you catch yourself speaking negative into something, you will begin to speak life into it instead. You'll be like, okay, finally, I will get a control of this habit, and you will see your team begin to turn around as well. Now, are you still going to have people that come to you with their negative vibes? Yes, you will. But they are less likely to impact you if you're not walking around in negative mode as well. And also, once you've learned that trick, you're more likely to, when they come to you, you're more likely to be like, if I'm teaching this to one of my level 1s, and once she's done her little 60 days worth of homework at, one of her people come to her, she says, hey, give out a piece of paper. let's write down everything that you just said and get yourself a red marker. And that also is infectious. You will watch that spread through your team like an off virus, and you will see like positivity begin to bloom. There's so much power. Oh my gosh. If I could convince you that you have a microchip of superpower in your tongue, you would completely change the way you spoke over your life every single day, the things that you would say, and you would begin to see little green blossoms everywhere. One other thing I have to say about this, and I know we're running out of time, but this is so important. Anything that you project in your life that is negative vibes, like guilt, doubt, unforgiveness, any kind of word that's an emotion that you can think of, okay, yeah, like I've got guilt going on in my life. I feel, guilty about such and such. I won't forgive my brother. I always am in doubt about certain things, whatever. If you can get those things under control through prayer, because those things are not easy. I know when I get to talking about unforgiveness, I have people completely break down in front of me. They're like, you don't understand. And I do understand. But if you have places in your life, my mother-in-law is a premonition dreamer. She has premonition dreams. And she always talks about having this blue umbrella, that her family's all walking under this blue umbrella, and there's rain coming under the umbrella on us. And she says, God finally showed me that that's his anointing pouring down on my family. And I love that image. Every time I see a blue umbrella, I always think of her. So when I really started to train my team on this, I call it blessing blockers. This like negativity, the doubt, the fear, the guilt, comparison. Comparison is a huge one, where you have this negative energy going on. It's like God showed me that you're taking this umbrella where I'm just blessing you. You're walking underneath my anointing, and it's pouring all over you like oil. And it's like you take it and you pop it up. You know how you take an umbrella and you shove it up, and it goes like this now, and it's pointed up, and everything that he's trying to flow into you, everything that he's trying to flow onto you and pour onto you, you're catching it with that negative vibe. Your umbrella is pushed up, and all of that good blessing juju is getting caught up, and it can't flow through you. He wants to bless you, but your negative energy and what you're projecting is causing it where he can't flow through you the way you were intended to be flowed through. I said that grammatically wrong. But that's like one of the realization of that will change your life. And if you have things that you're hanging on to that you don't feel like you can let go of, it takes prayer. I'm telling you right now, like you can be like, Lord, I don't know what to do with all this unforgiveness. I'm hurting so bad. Someone hurt me so bad, because I'm telling you right now, we've even got a family issue going on right now where we have close family members doing unspeakable things on purpose to my household. And so I do understand. I don't take it lightly when I'm talking about forgiveness, because it's one of those things where you're like, and if I forgive them tomorrow, they're going to do it again. So I don't take it lightly, but I do know that there's so much power in prayer, and there's power in like what I just said. If I forgive them, they will do it again tomorrow is not the right thing for me to be speaking into that situation. I need to be like, Lord, you're the ruler of this. You knew this before I was even born. You knew that this was going to happen, and you've already seen into my future. You're in my future already, and therefore I don't have to be afraid to step into my future because you're already there. Those type of things that speak life into your business, speak life into your family, and I don't even know what question I was answering. Oh, negativity. Yes. It's huge. Dealing with negativity in your own life. I think you have to start with your own life first, and then you can be prepared. You can be better prepared to deal with it within your team and within your business. Because I'm going to tell you what, when you start this business, this is my last sentence. When you start this business, you're sort of unaware and naive to the fact that you start off sort of being maybe at best the boss of your household. I mean, like, nobody really turns to you for advice, maybe. I mean, you may already be a big corporation owner. There may be people out there like that. But most of us, a lot of us are even just stay-at-home moms, and we're lucky if our children listen to us. We're lucky if our husband listens to us. And when suddenly you have people that are standing literally at the ready, looking at you, and they're like, tell me what to do. I want to know what to do now. And you're like, oh, my God. I mean, and then when they come at you and they're turning, you're like, I did it, and it didn't work. And it's negative. you can be so overwhelmed with that if you don't lay it down at the cross, if you don't lay it down at his feet, it could be the end of you and the end of this business for you. It's like it's your only option, to be honest with you. You can read a million books on it about how to deal with negativity, about the right things to say, but I feel like surrender is the only option. Just be like, Lord, I don't know what to do with this. When it's a big, huge situation, I don't know what to do with this. You're going to have to give me the answers. That was the longest run-on sentence, wasn't it? Sorry.
Girl, that was good. That
was
surrender
good.
is the only answer. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah, that's what I think that's what a lot of people need to hear. I've got one question about the previous question we asked you. You were talking about, I know you were talking about not, focusing a ton of your time on your really deep levels. But you were also talking about picking up the phone and maybe calling the people that's gone inactive. Do you spend a lot of time doing that? Because, I've always been taught the philosophy that, it's hard to raise the dead. So do you spend a lot of time doing that? And do you have a lot of success with that? Because I guess my thinking's always been, run with the runners and don't always try to be resurrecting the dead. So I don't, I want to see what your thoughts are on that.
I would say it's smarter to pick up the phone. If you have one that just now turned off their auto qualification and you don't know the why yet, those are the only ones that I feel, once you know the why, it's not a great why. I feel like you can go back and try to resurrect that dead if you want to, like if you have nothing else going on. But I don't think it's the wisest use of your time. I think it is smart, however, if you see a pattern where you're like, this person started, they were doing well for 3 months, and for 2 months they've been turned off, and you don't want to know if you don't know if you want to know the answer. Your heart's like, I don't want her to tell me it didn't work. I don't want her to tell me. But maybe you're going to call her. I think this is worth your time. Maybe you're going to call her and just find out she was frustrated, or she couldn't figure out the back office, or someone told her no and it hurt her feelings. And those are resurrectable. The ones that are new and they turn off for a couple of months, and out of your own fear, if it's out of your own fear that you don't call them and try to resurrect them, because think of your own self. Think, okay, if I tried and no one ever reached out to me, if I tried for 3 months and then I quit, it's like you quit going to church and no one ever called and said, we missed you. It's sort of the same thing. Now, spending lots of time on people who were only negative on your team page and then they quit, I would never in a million years. If somebody had put off this negative energy and then they decided to quit, you just say, sayonara. And I don't think that that's a good waste, or I think that's a waste of your time. Does that sort of differentiate between what I was trying to say? Mostly what I really wanted to say about running with the runners, it's good to run with the runners if they fall in your first 3 or 4 levels. But don't run with the runners just because that's the easy cop-out when they're on your 6th or 7th level, because those are not the people that are going to build your team for you.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I was, what I wanted to clarify.
Clarify it, though, because I see what you were asking me. So.
Yeah. I think some people get so hung up, they'll, in the beginning you get a few ambassadors and you have maybe a couple go inactive. And I see a lot of times people spend so much time trying to get them back on and it just isn't working for them. And sometimes I just want to say, hey, let's go find someone new, hey, let's go find somebody that wants this. And
yes.
So that's kind of what I was wanting to clarify with people, that, that you are going to lose people. That's going to happen. And sometimes you do have to just say, okay, we're going to move on to someone new. So that was kind of where I was going with that. So Amber?
Yeah, this has been so good. Lori, I don't know if you've had time to read all the little comments in the chat feature, but you have blessed so many people tonight, and we are so grateful. If you have time, I have one more question that actually a friend of mine texted me.
Okay.
And I think this is really good. How do you get over the fear that even if you go in with guns blazing, you won't succeed in this business? And you're fired up, you're ready to go, you've jumped in with both feet, but you still have that fear. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I think the confusion lies in that we think when we watch someone do it, like you watch someone do something and be successful at it, we think, man, they're so fearless. I think it's key, okay? And the truth is, the definition of courage is to feel the fear and just do it anyway. Like, we look at people and think, man, they must not have that gene that makes them nervous or has their anxiety and their pulse racing, and they just do everything. They're so fearless. And the truth is, I think everybody's like that. I mean, there may be the very, very few exceptions to the rule, but I think everybody goes into the business, probably any business, and is particularly into a network marketing business. They go into it fearful. The ones who succeed feel the fear, and they just do it anyway. So while that's not really an answer as to what to do, it's just to know what to expect. You're going to feel the fear, and if you'll just choose to do it anyway, on the other side of the fear, go ahead and feel it. On the other side, even if you get told no, you feel more courageous because you tried it, and it makes it easier to try it again the next time. And that's not the answer that anybody wants to hear, but I think it's the truth. I think I'm speaking truth about it. I think that after you've done the courageous thing, literally, I think it only takes 5 or 6 times. If let's say you try 10 times and 5 or 6 times you were rejected, or you felt like you didn't do it the right way, you stumbled around and you felt stupid. It only takes 5 or 6 times like that before you're like, you know what? There are smarter ways to do this. I'm going to watch some videos. I'm going to read the right books. Watch the video about how to answer questions, that type of thing. Because a lot of people, we do sort of hide behind Facebook. We tend to hide behind text messages, when I think picking up the phone and calling people lots of time is a better use of our time, especially if we're really prospecting new people or meeting them for lunch, those types of things. Those types of things can feel like they're hard to do. But if you do them prayerfully and you enter it with giving in your heart, rather than, depends on what your motivation is, I guess. But if you enter it with a gratitude and giving in your heart, I think it makes a lot better outcome in the end, because then you're like, well, I went into it with a gracious heart. I learned something from this experience, even though it didn't turn out the way I wanted, and maybe the next time will be better.
Thank you so much. I know I just kind of sprung that question on you, and I know we said this after every question, but that was so good. It's like our go-to phrase, because it really is all so good. Lori, we so appreciate your time, and we did record this. I can send you a copy if you'd like, but we so very much appreciate your time. Would you just mind closing us in prayer, and we'll go ahead and end out?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Lord, we come to you tonight with just gratefulness in our hearts, open spirits. And I just pray over this team that you would open their eyes to a big picture, Lord, like to the grand plan, and that it's so much bigger than we realize. Open our eyes to the big dreams that you laid out before us before we were even born. The ways that we can reach into people's lives, and the way that you can use us to pierce people's hearts for your kingdom. So you've given us so many tools, Lord, so many incredible tools where we can reach in and help people with the shackles of finances, and we can help people with health struggles and burdens. And it's such a cool business model that you would use. It's kind of like a sneak attack to gain people, to gain their trust, so that we can talk to them about what's really important. Lord, we're just so grateful for our families. We lift them up to you. And if there's anybody who has struggle going on tonight on this call, if they have any sort of anything, any sort of fear, if they have a financial struggle, a health struggle, relationship struggles with their family, Lord, I pray that you nudge them repeatedly to just lay it down. Just lay it down. It's not our burden to bear, Lord. You already did all that for us. I feel such a compulsion on my heart to just lift up marriages, the relationships that we have in our life, and particularly in marriages, Lord. I pray that you would just show us the perfect model of sacrifice for each other. That's what makes a marriage, is that we have to sacrifice for each other, Lord. I know it's all written in your word, but Lord, just show it to us. Give us great examples of that. I pray that every single person involved on, like if they're involved on this call tonight and they have team members that are not involved, I just pray blessings on their teams. I pray provision and abundance, and that you actually show us, give us glimpses that you went ahead before us, that you have prepared the path for us, that you bring people and put them in our path. And Lord, I pray that we don't goof it up once you do that. When you put the people in front of us and they're like, pouring their heart out to us, and they're telling us about their struggles, that the only way we can goof it up is to keep quiet. Remind us that. Open our mouth and say something. Don't let fear be the boss. Lord, let your grace and your mercy and your love pierce through our lives. Let us be a window of your love and to love on people. And we know that that's actually the true way to success, is if we're a window for you. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much, friend. This has just been really, really great. I really appreciate it. Guys, we wanted to plan this long enough after Maui. We were all recovered. I don't know that we all are just yet. But also still close enough to be able to just share a little bit about Maui with you like we did at the beginning. But team, we love you guys. Jana and I are going to stay on here just a little bit longer to answer questions. Lori, you're welcome to stay too if you'd like, but you also can, by all means, go ahead and go. But if you guys have any questions, you can post them in the chat feature, and then we'll just answer back verbally. If nobody has any questions, then we'll call it a night. Everybody's just itching to go. I can feel it. All right. Well, maybe we do call it a night. This has never happened before. She left us all speechless.
She did leave us speechless. For sure. Yes, wow. I felt like she was speaking directly to me tonight as well. I think she had a word for all of us, for sure.
Sometimes you can feel, am I still where I can talk? Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like I've been asked to be on people's calls before, but sometimes you can feel like the whole day, and that's how it's felt like to me today. Oh my goodness, I was in overwhelm mode all day. I felt my spirit just rising up, and I'm grateful that I had people that weren't looking at me cross-eyed, because that's the hardest thing to do, especially now that we've discovered this Zoom thing for Plexus, is to look at people when they're like, what is she talking about? So I'm really glad to have a receptive. Oh, okay. I hear somebody's got a question. Oh, okay. She says, what do you do when you have trigger jumped people, but you want to restart simply? Does that make sense? Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that there are ways to rectify that. You just have to sort of go in and be honest. I think you just have to go in and say, hey, I realize that when you ask me because usually it's their first question, we trigger bounce them and they never respond. But I realized that when you asked me about Plexus a few months ago, that I just probably overwhelmed you with information. You may have just been asking me, what it tasted like. And once I realized that, I thought maybe I should reach back out to you and find out what you were truly wanting to know. What longer I've been with the company, I realized that your question may have been a lot simpler, and just see what they say. I feel like honesty in those situations when you've done something goofy, because I have, oh my gosh, I've done it a lot. And I've gone back and done something really similar to that for people, to where I just say, and it has been, people are more receptive. People are more receptive than you would think. So I think you just be honest with them and say, I probably trigger bounced you and made you nervous. I'm not going to actually come over to your house with a billy club and make you join my team. You're welcome to ask me questions, and I'll just try to answer to the best of my knowledge. So that's how I would handle that.
Somehow I don't think the billy club would work very well.
I love that. And I mean, I've gone back to people before and just had to be like, I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. Can we start this conversation over? And people are so gracious. And I mean, this is relationship marketing. It's all about relationships. And so, when you can just go back to your buddy and tell him, I goofed that up, man. Can we start over? Most of the time, they're very gracious to let you start over.
Well, and most of the time, most people know when you're just blah, 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 blah. Most people know, okay, she doesn't really know what's going on yet, or she's thrown me this, paragraph that she pulled off of something else. Most people know that that's not your language. My friend Stacy asked, any tips on broadening your audience?
Okay. I think that question is usually probably coming from a place of, if you've made your list of like 100 people, okay, and you start with your list, if you haven't done that yet, that's the first thing that you should do. List 100 people that you know, and if you don't think you know 100 people, I hear this all the time. People are like, I only really talk to 2 or 3 people. You can literally use the phone book. You can go to the back and start like in the yellow pages portion and find, anybody, who do you know that's a auto mechanic? Who do you know that's a hairdresser? Who do you know? And you know a lot more people than you realize, and you start writing down names. And then you go back through and you star your top 20 that you think, yeah, that'd probably be a pretty good prospect there. I hadn't thought about that one. To me, broadening your audience in that way is probably the smartest. Leaving on if you actually reach out to a person and you think this is not going where I want, if you can leave the conversation in a way that's like, okay, I see you're not interested in this. Can we just be Facebook friends? I'd love to keep in touch with what's going on with you and your kids. I think that's a really great way, because in the long run, broadening your audience, just because they tell you in the beginning that they're not interested, if you like cold call them or Facebook message them or whatever, or email them, if they're not already your friend, if you can get them on your page, it makes them a little bit nosy. They're more likely to come. Also, when you run into people, I think this is like one of the best tips once I figured this out. When you run into people who seem like interesting people, but they're strangers to you, handing them your phone before you walk off, you don't have to say anything about Plexus. You put your phone on Facebook in the search bar, and you say, this is so interesting meeting you. I'd love to see the before and after photos of your kitchen remodel, whatever they were talking to you about. Will you add yourself on Facebook, and they will type in their own name, send themselves their own friend request. That's a huge way to, if you've had these conversations with people where you leave it and you're like, I wish I could have thought of a way to bring Plexus up. But if you don't think of a great way to bring Plexus up and it would seem inauthentic, that's a great way to get them, because once you get home, this is the trick. They added you on Facebook. While you're standing there finishing the conversation, you screen capture their Facebook profile. That way you don't forget the name. Because for me, that's a high on the likelihood list. To be like, I don't know how she spelled it. She said her name was Karina. Whatever. I don't know. So you screen capture it while you're sitting there talking to them. Well, then later that night, like right before bedtime, you go in there and you just send them a private message that says, it was so nice to meet you today. Make sure you send me those pictures of your kitchen remodel later when you get finished. That's the likelihood of nosiness in that person to come over and like inspectigate who your friends are and investigate what your kids look like and who you're married to and what you do for a living is really high. And I have more luck when we're talking about strangers. That's the thing I have the most luck with, is that tactic right there, getting them to add me on Facebook and sending them a message later. It has nothing to do with Plexus, but their nosiness gets the best of them.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah.
Such a great idea.
I actually tried that probably I've only done it a few times, but in Maui, the very last night there, we were at Monkey Pod. A girl sat down next to us and we got to chatting with her. And my husband I'm admitting this, here I am, admitting this to my team. I mean, fear sets in and my husband's nudging me. He's like, give her your phone. And I did. And so we've got a little conversation going. She's interested. So yeah, it really does work. So I love that.
Well, and then you get to go host a team meeting in Maui. So
That's right. That's not too shabby either. I could do that one.
Yeah, there are worse things.
That's right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, I think we'll go ahead and call it a night. Lori, thank you so much.
All right. You guys have a great night.
You too.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Huh.
Good night, everybody.